Alright, now that the hinge rail is attached to the door frame, now we're ready to hang this thing in place and make sure it's going to work. Again, in this step, you can see the hinge rail is actually longer than the door frame. If you're dealing with a shorter opening than what your hinge rail is, then you need to use a hacksaw and cut that to length. But in this situation, we don't have to cut it. Alright, it's fitting in the opening as it is. What we want to do now is take this whole frame system, slide it all the way up to the top until that actual hinge, the top of that hinge rail is hitting the bottom of that drift cap. Then we want to mark this hole here on the face of it. Now that we've marked that hole, we can pre-drill with our 1/8 inch drill bit. Take our handy impact driver with Phillips bit, get it ready with a screw. Again, this is a great time to have some help, and then use them. Slide all the way to the top. Alright, attach that thing there. Now we're just going to attach that top screw to begin with. Now we're going to grab a nice plumb stick, also called a level. Throw a level on this door here. Push it up tight on the bottom because you know it's not screwed. See if it's level. You know, if you have to make some adjustments, say you need to slide the bottom out to make it level, you can slide it out just a little bit and still attach your screw. Even if it's not touching all the way, it'll be just fine. Once you put those screws in there, it'll secure it completely. Now we can go ahead and completely fill in the screw holes here, pre-drill your holes, and then screw them in right here on the face. And also open up your door, and you'll see some more holes here. You want to pre-drill those and then screw it in. Now that we've got the door frame with the hinge rail attached to it, and we got the hinge rail attached to the actual opening, next step is to actually put the glass back in with the glass retainers. But before we do that, you know, we want to do this right here. All this plastic, they put some plastic on there to keep it protected during shipping, during installation. Since we're done moving this thing around, let's take this plastic off, alright? Now we got the actual complete finish of the door. We're going to install the glass panel. Now this is the best part that you would want to have somebody help you with, because you don't want to break this glass. If you do that, you know, you're buying a whole new door. So, but I'm going to be pretty careful with it. We're going to set the glass on the bottom, tilt it in, then we'll grab the retainers and install it. Alright. Let's hold that there, hoping it don't fall. We'll grab a side retainer. These are little plastic pieces that pretty much hold the glass in place. It doesn't really do anything structural other than hold the glass in place. It can be kind of tricky to get these in here. You just gotta look at your instructions. They're all different. You know, look at the detailed drawings of it, and then see how it exactly pops in. Alright, now after I done fought with those glass retainers for 10 minutes, I'm back to finish the installation here. I got the glass retainers in. You know, those are kind of difficult to get in sometimes. You got to wiggle them around and, you know, use a chisel here and there to pry your glass up and down. That way you can make sure you get a good tight fit, because that's one thing you don't want, is this glass not being secure. You want this glass to be secure. That way when you're slamming your storm doors like storm doors always end up doing, you don't want this glass to fall out. That's the worst case scenario. But now that we have the glass in place, it's the full weight of the door what you want to do is close the door. Make sure everything's swinging good. The next step is going to be to completely attach that drip cap that we left unscrewed. We want to completely attach that now. When we do this, we want to make sure that the door's clearance is the same gap all the way across that top, so we'll get a good seal with that. Let's close the door. Get our drills ready. Alright. Looks like we need to adjust it down just a little bit, where we have a uniform gap all the way across the top there. Let's go ahead and pre-drill the holes. Now we'll screw it in. Drill bit's about wore out. Get good leverage on it. Looking pretty good. All the way across. Okay. Now our next step is to install this. The latch rail, strike rail, whatever you want. Now we want to make sure that we got it in the right position here. Let's open our door up. And we want to take this latch rail and do the same thing as we did with the hinge rail. Slide it all the way to the top of the drip cap, and then make sure it's firm, and then we'll go ahead and attach it. If I can find my trusty pencil here. This thing right here is another important item that most people lose all the time. I know I sure do. I can't never keep a pencil. Alright. We'll take that, slap it all the way up against there. Push it to the top till it's touching the bottom of that drip edge. We're going to mark these holes here. Well, let's mark one hole. Pre-drill that hole. Get us a screw. Go ahead and put that back up there. Attach that. Now we have it in place. We'll go ahead and pre-drill the rest of those holes, and then screw it on there, and then our latch rail is complete. Alright, now that we have the screws all the way down the latch rail, we need to close our door. Make sure we got a uniform gap all the way across this, all the way down this door. We don't want it to, make sure it's not bumping into anything, or it's not hitting the weather seal or anything like that. Make sure it's all clear. Looks like we're all good here. The next step is to install this. This is called the bottom sweep. It goes on the bottom of the door to give it a weather seal on the bottom, you know, so bugs and critters can't get in here. You take these little rubber weather stripping pieces here, and you'll see little small grooves in the bottom of your sweep. You want to go ahead and take these, insert them in there, slide them all the way in there. Boom. There we go. They're installed. One. Should be two of them. Take this. Slide it in here as well. Now these can get tricky at times. If it won't slide in there because it is rubber against metal, you can take like some water and some dish soap, mix that up, get it wet with some dish soap, and it should slide in there a little bit easier. Now these tend to sometimes end up being a little bit long. You might have to cut them, but these are, as you can see, pretty much the perfect size. So now we want to take a pair of pliers, needle nose pliers, regular pliers, any kind of pliers, and take these ends right here and crimp them down That way it'll hold that rubber weather seal in the actual sweep, and it won't slide out. You can see here. Take that, crimp it down. Crimp both of those, get them good in place, good and secure. Now we want to take it and slide it onto the door. Go to the bottom of the door here, making sure that you have holes here where you put your screws in. You want to make sure those are facing the inside. That way you have a clean, unblemished surface on the outside for visual purposes. Slide that on until it's flush there. Alright, make sure it doesn't extend past or anything. Get it flush. That's flush there. Now the purpose of this actual weather seal of the door sweep is to give a weather seal on the bottom. You want that to be touching the ground so you can adjust it up and down to where those little rubber fins are barely scraping the ground. That way, you know, it'll still move freely, yet nothing can crawl up under there. Now, this is a normal situation. In this situation, we have a on-grade basement here, and then we're installing this on a basement door. So you can see there's a slab, and the door sits up a little bit higher than this front porch. So in our case, there's no possible way to get that door sweep all the way down to the ground. So what I'll have to do later is come back in and put a weather stripping that's actually on the concrete there, so the fins of the door sweep will hit that. But in this case, we don't have that, so what I'm going to do is lower it down to its lowest possible position, and then I'm going to attach it there with the screws through the screw holes. There should be 2 screw holes in the back. You'll just pre-drill these holes. If it doesn't have self-tapping, pre-drill those holes, screw it in, and you're good to go on that bottom sweep.